Like to call the Monday, September 12th, 2022 City Council regular meeting to order. For our invocation tonight from Covenant Love Church, Reverend Tim Atkins, if you'll come to the podium, and like to ask if we would all stand.
Let us pray. I invite you to turn your hearts to God. Dear Father God, we thank you in the name of our Lord for giving us your guidance, your precepts, your holy anointing to do not only service for those that you have given us opportunity to serve, but help us, Lord, to faithfully do our duties in excellence in an insightful manner. Holy and eternal God, our King, grant us the ability to utilize your wisdom in such a way that our city prospers in law and order, but also in equal and golden opportunities created by an environment of freedom and vision. Bless our mayor and each council member with your special grace to manage responsibilities with your great help as our burden bearer who has finished the work for all of us in redemption. We pray, Lord, that the love that you give us for each other will be manifested in this meeting and in every facet of our lives. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you. We'll go forward with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll be seated, please. Reverend Atkins, if you'll return to the podium and tell us a little bit about you and the church.
I'm a retired chaplain from the Army, 26 years. I'm serving there now with missions and outreach. We, love to have you come visit us at Covenant Love. We love our city. We pray for it, and we try to be good, responsible citizens of our community. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. The mayor, I believe, is in an airplane right now. But once he lands, he said he would be calling in. So I'm Johnny Dawkins, Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to welcome all of you. It's been a little over 22 years since Reverend Aaron Johnson, Dr. Breeden Blackwell, and Mayor Milo McBride served as Mayor Pro Tem and served with my dad, J.L. Dawkins. So it's been a while since there's been a Dawkins behind this seat. So welcome for tonight. We'll move into announcements. Councilmember Hare.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and good evening to everyone that's in the audience and everyone that is listening tonight. I have three announcements I'd like to share with you. I invite everyone tonight, especially some of our graduating seniors and upcoming graduating seniors, to our 5th annual HBCU College Fair. That is a college fair that will be done this weekend, September the 17th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the main host for that college fair is Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Beta Chi Chapter here in Fayetteville. If you would like to call, if you would like to participate or sponsor, I hope it's not too late, you can call 624-7730. And that's going to be this weekend at Smith Recreation Center on Slater Avenue here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, September the 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That is the 5th annual Historical Black College University College Fair. Love to see you. Also, let me go back here. Is the other one. Also, on September 21, 2022, which is next Wednesday from 1 p.m., Mayor Pro Tem, to 5 p.m. at the same location, Smith Recreation Center, 1520 Slater Avenue, Fayetteville, North Carolina. The 100 Black Men of America Cape Fear district have partnered with the American Red Cross. There will be a blood drive that's going to be on Wednesday, September the 21st, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Smith Recreation Center. And another great thing that we're doing, this is going to be at my church. There is a gun buyback through the city of Fayetteville, the police department, and that is also going to be on September the 17th. That's this weekend. All of this is this weekend. September the 17th is going to be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's going to be at Kingdom Impact Global Ministries Church, 2503 Murchison Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28301. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilmember Hare. Councilmember Ingram.
Thank you. I'd like to first announce that applications for the Community Safety Micro Grant next wave will open up in November. Our Economic and Community Development Department will share that publicly and send emails out, but just be aware to go ahead and get your ideas formulating. Those applications will open up. And we have some special people in the audience, and I'm going to ask them to stand. We have Professor Judge Siler Mack here with us with her criminal justice class from our very own Fayetteville State University, Bronco Pride. So can you all stand up and wave, and thank you so much for spending your class here with us tonight. And this is how we begin to work on that next generation of employees and working our way into just ensuring that we are reinvesting into our future. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Jensen. Thank you, Councilmember Ingram.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So on behalf of Councilmember Hondros and I, we would like to invite you to our church for our Greek Festival, our annual Greek Festival, which will start on September 17th and September 18th. We will have it open on Saturday and Sunday. Please come out, enjoy the food and the music and fellowship. So we are at Oak Ridge Avenue. So thank you. Yes, and Councilmember Ingram does come and help and is an honorary member. The Greek ladies tell her what to do at all times. You're one of us now.
Now, Councilmember Jensen and I are going to go to the front and do a very special presentation on behalf of Mayor Colvin.
So before I get started, I want to kind of tell a little story, and everybody that knows when I get on a microphone, I always tell a story. So I was flying back from, I think it was Atlanta at one time, and I was sitting in my chair and we were waiting, and all of a sudden this gentleman comes in and he is sweating profusely. And you know, I don't know how many of you travel from Atlanta to Fayetteville, the line was backed up all through the place. And what was interesting, I'm born and bred here, I did not know one soul on the plane. And I was like, wow, Fayetteville is really getting to be a major city. And they were lined up. So this guy comes in, he's sweating, and he sits down because he thought he was going to miss his plane. And it was Major General Eddie Reeder. So I don't know if any of y'all know Eddie Reeder. He is a hometown boy, and I have to say he is a Pine Forest grad, Northside kid, and played D1 football with Appalachian. Great, great man. So he proceeds to tell me about something that he's so excited about, and it is Mr. Clark. And if I'm not mistaken, it is Command Sergeant Major Clark. Right. Command Sergeant Major Clark retired out of the Army and loved his country so much, he became a civil servant out at Fort Bragg. He just retired. Major General Reeder was so excited about his retirement ceremony. Now, the fun fact about Mr. Clark is, Mr. Clark is 92 years old. That is a true American hero. Mr. Clark, and I should say Command Sergeant Major Clark, could not be here tonight. He retired, and he's had a little bit of health problems and just did not feel that he could be out here today. So Command Sergeant Major Clark is watching us as I am giving this presentation. So everybody, can we give Command Sergeant Major a clap so he knows how many people are here? So, with that being said, as I was talking to my childhood friend, Eddie Reeder, he was telling me about it. I was like, you know, is he a city resident? And he's like, yes, he loves Fayetteville. He loves everything about it. It is his home. And I said, we need to do something. I was like, let me talk to the mayor, send me his resume, send me everything. And I said, I can't promise, but hopefully we can get him a key to the city. He said, Kathy, if y'all just said his name, he would be so appreciative and so humbled by it. So, of course, I sent it to the mayor, and he was like, absolutely, these are the heroes that live among us. So I would like to give a shout out to his daughter. Her name is Patricia Jones, and she is taking care of her dad right now, so that's why she could not be here. And his grandson, that has Mike, that has been going back and forth with me, and his last words to me were, Councilmember Johnson, I'm sorry we didn't want to disappoint you, but he is truly my hero. And I think Command Sergeant Major is all of our heroes. So, Command Sergeant Major, we have, on behalf of the mayor and the City Council of Fayetteville, North Carolina, I'm getting a little emotional here. Our city key and coin are proudly presented to Command Sergeant Major David L. Clark in grateful recognition for his devoted interest and untiring commitment to the community, September 12th, 2022. So congratulations, Command Sergeant Major, and thank you for everything that you've done. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins. Yes, I am going to call it the ladies. So another hat that I wear is I get to work with beautiful, intelligent, empowering girls every day. And so Mayor Pro Tem said, well, Kathy, would you like to introduce Fayetteville Beautiful right here, Miss Fayetteville and Miss Fayetteville team? If you would like to come on up and say a few words. These are the girls that represented us so eloquently and lovely during the Miss North Carolina America pageant. And our Miss Fayetteville was in the top 11. And I think that was the first time in a long time, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to
Miss Brianna Carrington.
Yes.
Is that right?
And Janae Johnson. So I'm going to let y'all introduce yourself and give a little bit.
Hi, everyone. I first want to say thank you for having both me and Janae here. We are hometown girls of Fayetteville, North Carolina, so being able to represent Fayetteville was something that was truly near and dear to my heart. Like she mentioned, we were able to compete for Miss North Carolina this past June, and I was able to be a part of the top 11 and win a $1,000 scholarship, which went towards my education. So scholarship is a big thing for me, making sure that I can further my education. My social impact initiative is called PASSION, which stands for Providing a Selfless Service to Ignite Our Nation. And with my social impact initiative, I want to give all young adults the tools and resources that they need to let them know that their past does not define them, but it truly does help them set themselves up for a better future and to be a better individual than who they were. And so with this organization, I'm able to do that, and I'm able to get out in the community and provide young adults with these resources and making sure that they know that they have a bright future. So I definitely want to thank Miss Kathy, as well as the City Council, the Mayor, and everybody in Fayetteville for letting me represent you in the best way possible.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janae Johnson, and I am Miss Fayetteville's Outstanding Teen. And although I did not make top 11 in Miss North Carolina's Outstanding Teen, it was still such an amazing opportunity to share my voice on the stage. My talent is a monologue. Signing up for this pageant, I didn't know what I would do as a talent because I can't dance and I can't sing, so I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? But I was able to create or write a monologue myself that basically tells women, not just young women, but older women, that sometimes you have to dig down and find the talent within you, and it's not always something that you do. My social impact initiative is ADAPT, and after a loss of a cousin-like sister in 2018 to a drug-related murder, I only thought it was possible, and I knew it was so important that I took action in this topic. So through that, I have included it in my school to make Counseling Corner, and this is just to show young teens that they have someone to talk to and that they don't have to turn to drugs to be their coping mechanism. So thank you, City Council, and everyone sitting in those pretty chairs behind me. I'm actually student body president at my school, so this is not an unfamiliar setting for me, but thank you all for having me. It's such a dream come true to be here today. Thank you.
Next in the announcements is Isabel Effen. Was she able to make it, or some of her African World Peace Festival folks?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Mayor
come on
Pro
up.
Tem.
Come on up to the podium, please.
Dr. Ephraim.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, this is Miss Isabella Ifan, and she heads up the African World Peace Festival on behalf of the great citizens of the city. And this weekend, she hosted the African World Peace Festival downtown and brought some amazing guests with her, who I pray and hope they get to come back and continue to come back to Fayetteville. And I think looking at the impact, regardless of the rain, they pushed through, and I hope this is something we can get behind and support them in doing.
Thank you, City Council. My name is Dr. Isabella Afon, and I am the founder of Culture and Heritage Alliance. So part of Culture and Heritage Alliance program and mission is to preserve our culture, our music, our indigenous art, music, name it all. We find it very interesting that the young generation doesn't follow as much as we would love to, so we made it our mission to bring it to the community, and that's what we do. So we talk about culture, and you hear music in different dialects, and drums, and percussions, and different instruments, and that's what we engaged our community with this weekend. In our midst, we have Mr. Kojo Entry, who has been a composer for the past 31 years. I grew up as a little girl listening to all his music, and we had the opportunity of bringing his band here to perform. Unfortunately, that Friday, Heaven's Open, which is okay, because we need that food. So we understand. So we have the opportunity of bringing him here to share with the community that this is what we missed, but we will be bringing him back. So,
Hello, my name is Kojo Entry. I was here last Saturday. I was here with my band to perform, but unfortunately, because of the rain, we couldn't make it happen. But we're looking forward to be back again to make it happen this time. Thank you all, and bless you.
So on behalf of the city, the community, I'd like to say thank you for supporting us. It would have been our 8th annual African World Peace Festival, but it was the 6th due to COVID. So again, Council, Council, I thank all of you.
They're down there.
We have the Ghanaian community here. I thank all of you for coming tonight, and I thank everyone who is here to be with us. Thank you so much.
And if you'll stay up there, Isabella, we have something to present you on behalf of the mayor. And Councilmember Ingram is doing that right now. So if we'll get some pictures of that, please. Okay, and this is from Mayor Mitch Colvin. This is our official city coin.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank you
all.
for having us.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Councilmember Jensen for a recognition of a very important group to our city.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Before we get started, I do want to recognize our members of the Millennial Commission that are sitting in the back, that they come every meeting. Could you please stand? The ones that are here. Malik and Kat, there you go. Thank you. They're doing great work.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Are any other announcements? Okay, thank you. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. Two announcements, very briefly. One is 11 years ago on today, we were graced with a very talented and very special staff member to me and to the community. And I'd like to, on her anniversary, like to say thank you to our clerk, Pam McGill, who 11 years ago joined us. And I have another very special staff member I'd actually asked to come up as well, Brooke Redding, who's going to give the council an update on our camping ordinance. And he's here now. Thank you.
Good evening, council. As the manager spoke about, I'm here to update you quickly on the past 30 days, what staff has worked on in terms of the ordinance and its implementation. You still hear me? Still echoey. So for the past 30 days, after council's action, staff immediately built a cohort where we took police department and many other departments across the city to include some external agencies from the team of care. And we began planning the implementation of the ordinance that you adopted back on August 8th last month. That plan is been broken down into 3 phases, and it's going to initiate today, where we go out and engage. So let me go ahead and start with this first slide. So our mission statement for this plan was that City Fayetteville staff, with the support of the continuum of care service providers, will implement the camping ordinance S 2022-014 using a 3-phase process on September 12th with the education and outreach, and completing December 5th, 2022 with full enforcement of the ordinance and surrounding impact reduction program protocols. The concept of this implementation, is that better, sir? I'm trying to fix it. So the concept of this is that staff is going to, again, begin today and for the next 4 weeks, continue to do education and engagement across the encampments and with the city staff in Fayetteville, to include our residents and our other service providers. So kind of the concept of this is that we conduct street outreach. We go and engage those encampments periodically. We inform them that the ordinance has been adopted. We let them know what that looks like in terms of the rule and the law that y'all put in place and what will be impending over the next time frame. On October 10th, we'll switch to the 2nd phase, and we'll move from education and engagement and go to verbal warnings and education and engagement. And so we'll have an increase in, again, engagement with those populations, but we will inform them that they're non-compliant according to the law that you put in place. We will also have completed our entire assessment of the operational environment for the city, meaning we will have looked at each encampment that we know of its location. We will have conducted a risk assessment. We will have stacked that information together and begin to triage those encampments that are quantified as high risk, as we spoke about through the many other meetings we've had. That will go on for an additional 4 weeks. So from October 10th to November 7th, we'll continue to educate and engage, and the police department will have uniformed officers at those locations that we've identified as high risk, that we've discussed in our working groups, where we're trying to mitigate and mitigate the risks that are created from them. But ultimately, our police officers will provide verbal warnings to those individuals that they're non-compliant in the location they're at, and that they need to begin to look forward to moving on to a different location. Again, this is based off of the risk component that we spoke about and the protocols we built in the impact reduction program. After November 7th, we move into phase 3, and that goes from November 7th to December 5th. At that time, we'll be continuing street outreach. We will begin to reduce risks and impacts of these encampments that have been identified as high risk. We will continue public education, and the police department will begin to issue written citations for those that have multiple engagements where they're not complying or continuing to move on. I'll pause there for a second. Actually, I'd like to highlight 6 key tasks that staff listed out based off council's action. Task 1 is to educate Fayetteville residents on the camping ordinance and its effects on homelessness. Task 2 is to conduct street outreach to residents who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Task 3 is to identify all encampment locations in and around the city. So we're going to go into deeper locations that we haven't gone before, but the goal is to identify who's where so we have an understanding of that environment. Conduct risk assessments of all of these encampments. Integrate the continuum of care providers with city staff during street outreach. And enforce the camping ordinance within its legal parameters and the protocol of the impact reduction program. I'll pause there for any questions.
And thank you, Brooke. One of the things that I've wanted to share with the council in giving this brief update is to let you know that since you gave the direction, we've been steady and been moving forward with our impact reduction model and identifying those camps. And while we do have a very thoughtful schedule that Brooke walked through, I would tell you as well that if we encounter homeless encampments that we need to address before that become a danger to the residents or a danger to the public that are on the right on the city's property, then we are moving forward with those as well. But subject to any questions that you might have, that I think that would just to let you know that we are moving forward with the council's direction.
Go ahead, Brooke, please proceed. Oh, we do have a question. Councilmember Ingram?
City Manager, can we get this, this timeline sent to us, please?
Yes, ma'am. Brooke will prepare that for writing and get that out to you all tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you,
Unless there are any other questions, sir.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Seeing no further questions, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I have a motion.
Councilmember Hondros.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to reconsider an item from August 22nd's meeting, which was 7.02, I believe, of that meeting.
Point of order.
So is that a motion to approve the agenda?
No, it's a motion not to approve the agenda.
reconsider.
To reconsider, yes.
Point of order. Can I have some, can we have clarity on the actual item? Are you saying a 7.02?
7.07.
Seven.
It's the execution of the contract with ShotSpotter.
Thank you.
And I'll second that motion, Mayor Pro Tem.
An item from a previous council meeting. City Attorney, this just requires a simple majority. Is that correct?
That's correct, for the
Okay.
reconsideration.
Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, is there those in favor of the motion to reconsider 7.07 from our previous meeting? Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Clerk, did you get those numbers?
Mayor Pro Tem, she will need for you to call the names out so
All right.
that she can have it for the minutes.
All right, Councilmember Hondros, Councilmember Benavente, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, Councilmember McNair, Councilmember Ingram, Councilmember Thompson. Motion passes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins. If I can make a motion to amend the agenda and create item 10.02.
I'm agreeing as well.
I believe we have the mayor on the phone. Is that true, Deputy Clerk? All right, thank you. So your motion is to what now, Mr. Benavente?
To amend the agenda to include item 10.02, execution of the ShotSpotter contract, now that it's been approved for reconsideration.
All right, and question, city attorney, before I get a second on that, would that be a discussion, or would it be a straight motion, no discussion, and it would require 3/4, or now that we have the mayor, 8 votes?
Just a straight vote without discussion. Then when it is added to the agenda will be when you will have the discussion.
All right, so it passed to add it to the agenda, so it now is
No,
on the agenda.
there was a motion, you need a second, and then a vote.
All right, so a motion by Councilmember Benavente, second by Councilmember
Point of order.
Andros.
Point of order, Madam Attorney, we just took the vote to reconsider.
You have
It
a
is
protocol
not-
you have a protocol which says to amend your agenda,
Okay.
you need 3/4 vote. So that is where you are. And assuming that passes, then you would move to approve your agenda with the additional item.
All right,
Okay,
so
in the,
this vote,
I'm so sorry, but in the past, when we haven't taken the vote on,
the motion to reconsider passed.
right, but what
So
I'm.
now is a motion to add it to the agenda. So
I
now
think,
it requires,
Councilmember Ingram, what may be causing the confusion, and Councilmember Benavente and I have talked about that. There's a process to reconsider an item which takes 8 votes. There then is a process when it is one of the 5 exceptions to the reconsideration. Historically, when this has come up, it has not been related to one of those 5 exceptions. So there was only,
Except for tonight. Okay, thank you so much.
all right, and Madam Attorney, now we'll have to get 8 votes to add it to the agenda, is that correct?
that is correct, assuming that the mayor is on the line. 3/4 would be 8.
All right. Mr. Mayor, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion to add this to,
Councilman Dawkins, I did have a discussion if this is appropriate time.
all
Mayor
right,
Pro Tem.
discussion, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
It's not appropriate
Yeah.
under your rules for
Oh.
discussion on the motion.
Motion to add. Mr. Mayor, discussion is not appropriate. All right, so we will move to the vote. Those in favor of adding this to the agenda, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mr. Mayor, what is your vote?
Red.
All right, so I believe if those, Councilmember Ingram, Councilmember Honda, this is for in the affirmative, Ms. McGill, Councilmember Ingram, Councilmember Hondros, Councilmember Benavente, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, Councilmember McNair, so it's at 5. And then the mayor was read, and then those opposed, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the mayor's 5, so motion fails 5-5. All right,
Right. Yes.
thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Councilmember Hondros, motion to approve the agenda,
Second.
and seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Discussion on the motion to approve the agenda. Seeing none, I ask for your vote. Those in favor, right hand to approve the agenda, 1, 2. That's Councilmember Ingram, Councilmember Thompson, Councilmember Hare, Councilmember Dawkins, Councilmember Jensen, Councilmember McNair, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, Councilmember Benavente, Councilmember Hondros. Mr. Mayor, what is your vote?
Green.
Green, thank you. Ms. McGill, that vote is unanimous. All right, moving to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor
Pro
Pro-
Tem,
Go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Not second.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
Councilmember Ingram, second by Councilmember Thompson. Discussion on approval of the consent agenda. Seeing none, those in favor, right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that a yes? Okay, Mayor Colvin, your vote on consent agenda. We may have lost the mayor. All right, so the vote is unanimous of those present. All right, now we move to the public forum. Okay, public forum. This is the time that any Fayetteville resident may have input and a voice in what goes on in their city. Due to policy restrictions, the forum will not last longer than 30 minutes, and each speaker will be limited to only 3 minutes to address the City Council on issues related to the City of Fayetteville. Individuals wishing to speak at tonight's public forum should have signed up with the city clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. If you are here to speak on items that may be on tonight's agenda under the public hearing, we ask that you reserve your comments until that public hearing. So when your name is called by the city clerk, we ask that you come to the podium and clearly state your name and home address for the record. Then, when you see the light located on the podium change from green to yellow, you have 30 seconds left to speak. When you see the red light come on, your time has expired. Again, due to policy restrictions, we are not able to extend the given time. Now, we have 22 folks signed up, so if you take 22 times 3, that would be 66. It'd be over an hour. So what I'm asking for your consideration is we're going to get to as many of you as we possibly can, and if you wish to limit your time, please feel free to do so that we can hear as many voices as we can. If we cannot get to you, we will do all we can at the next public forum, and be aware of that. Clerk, Pam McGill on her 11th anniversary. Would you please call our first speaker?
Yes, sir. Our first speaker is Miss Caitlin Potts.
Thank you, Ms. Potts. If you'll give us your name and your home address, please.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Potts, and I live at 2940 Bakers Mill Road.
Thank you.
My name is Caitlin Potts. I'm the president of the Cumberland County Young Conservatives. We have a goal of reaching out to young people who believe in conservative ideals and promoting getting involved in campaigns, general activism, and local government, which is why I'm here today to help provide an example that young adults should be engaged with their communities. Crime is very rampant in Fayetteville, so I plead with the council to consider ways we can improvise and prioritize safety measures in our town, as well as make more attempts to improve our PD to be more efficient in responding to emergencies. Every week on the Facebook page called Watch Out Cumberland County, or our local newspaper, the Fayetteville Observer, there are always headlines saying the following words: dead, critical condition, body found, shooting attempt, and homicide. How many more deaths do we need to occur before the safety of Fayetteville is recognized as a priority? According to crimegrade.org, a crime happens in Fayetteville every 43 minutes. 82% of cities in America are safer than Fayetteville, with only 18% of cities having a much worse crime rate than our own, such as Chicago. If you live on the south side of town, your chance of being a victim of a crime is 1 out of 349. On the northern side of town, it increases your chances by being 1 out of 128. There is no doubt that these statistics need to decrease for the sake of the citizens of Fayetteville. I'm hoping that in the scenario where the $97 million bond referendum is successful in the November election, that the city decides to use that money wisely with bonds related to public safety, such as improving our training and education for police officers and 911 operators, along with the overall security of our lives, doing anything that you can reasonably can to decrease these statistics and decrease unnecessary death and violence that keeps happening in our streets. As for Councilwoman Jensen's agenda item at the last meeting regarding increasing membership of the Millennial Advisory Board. I couldn't agree more, which is why yesterday I have filled out an application digitally from the city's website to request to be appointed to it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Potts. Mrs. McGill.
Our next speaker is Mr. Tommy Harding.
As Mr. Harding is coming up, his nickname is Big Tommy, and I encouraged Mr. Harding to come and speak to the council about his issue that concerns him very much. Mr. Harding, state your name and your residence, please.
My name is Tommy Harding, and I live at 6848 Fern Creek Place in Fayetteville. Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce myself as I just did. I just happen to be a former gang leader from New York City many years ago. I also graduated to organized crime in the early 80s until the mid-90s, which led me to prison. I spent quite a few years on Rikers Island and upstate New York jails after sentencing. That's one place that's inhuman. You don't want to be there, trust me. When I was finally released in 1998, I left New York and came here to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Because I had some family here, I wanted out of the organized criminal lifestyle, so I decided to write an autobiography. I completed it, and it's called Hardening. This is my book, Hardening. The X is a symbol for nonviolence. This is my book, and the symbols for nonviolence. I'm also in pre-production for a documentary being filmed about me and my life, but I'm not here to sell books. I'm here to save lives. As part of my redemption was becoming a bounty hunter here in our lovely state of North Carolina. I hunted down VFOs, which is violent felony offenders. I did that for approximately 10 years. That's enough about me. Let's talk about the problem at hand, especially what this young lady was talking about. And that problem is gangs in our community. I want to be part of the solution. Too many young lives are being ruined, and it's overflowing with collateral damage. This is an epidemic, and I'm not talking about the coronavirus. I'm referring to gang problems in our community. We have to get to the root of this problem. I want to be a tool for our community. We as a community can work together and help save lives. The jails and the cemeteries are being overfilled with young people and innocent bystanders. This needs to stop. We have to band together as a community to prevent another life from being wasted. I want to help that young gangbanger take a different road, male or female, does not matter. I'm one of the lucky few that made it out alive. I was stabbed and shot during my affiliation with gangs and organized crime. I was also housed with the New York City Zodiac killer, Roberto Seda, in 1992. That is not a way to live. I want to help change the minds of some of our young people. As big and strong as I am, there's more strength working together as a community. Mr. Johnny Dawkins and I have sat down together and discussed some of the gang problems in our community. Bottom line, we all need to work together and come up with a solution to this terrible problem. Today, I am the solution. I will use all of my prior experience and knowledge to help save some lives, because I have been where they are. What I'm about to say, if we as a community can save at least one life, it will be worth it. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Harding, very much.
Our next speaker is Miss Ann Schrader.
Ms. Schrader, if you'll state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, City Council. My name's Ann Schrader. I'm the owner of Eco Solutions, and I reside at 223 Stedman Street up in Haymount. Let me just turn this on. I'm a little nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous, but I'm nervous. It's been a while since I've spoken in front of City Council. So, good evening, City Council. I'm here this evening to call for an update to our city's 2009 Sustainability Master Plan. In Fayetteville, we only have to step outside to feel record-breaking temperature changes or read the headlines reporting of historical droughts and threats to water resources, including the Cape Fear River, and watch the nightly news revealing devastating forest fires and unprecedented flooding like Hurricanes Matthew and Florence here in Fayetteville, and the loss and displacement of millions of lives and ecosystems. Our state budget office estimated Hurricanes Matthews and Florence cost our state over $20 billion in damages, clearly telling us that the price of inaction or business as usual far exceeds the benefits of sustainable action. And our federal government just enacted the largest environmental, climate, and renewable energy laws in U.S. history. And our state of North Carolina has a current climate change risk assessment and resiliency plan. And our city of Fayetteville needs one as well. Currently, our city's 2009 Sustainability Master Plan is outdated. It also is featured on the bottom of our city's solid waste website page and could be better featured on our city's home page, as well as incorporating it into our city's mission statement to relay our sustainability leadership as well as our can-do Carolina mindset that cares about social equity, environmental protection, as well as economic prosperity in equal measure. Our environmental challenges and climate crises require a collaborative, whole community approach in implementing their solutions. And these include greater environmental awareness and education, improved waste reduction and recycling initiatives, improved energy management and water efficiency and protection, green purchasing, cleaner transportation, and resilient groundskeeping and management. And I'm happy to collaborate and work together with this City Council in implementing these solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schrader, and we'll be talking.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Robert Walls. Mr. Robert Walls. Okay. Miss Wendy Harris.
Welcome, Ms. Harris. If you'll state your name and your residence or place.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Wendy Harris. My residence is 3214 Trogdon Drive. I am the owner of Team Harris Real Estate. I am a past president of the Longleaf Pines Association of Realtors. I am immediate past president of Fayetteville Area Habitat for Humanity, and I am 2022 president of the North Carolina Association of Realtors. Every once in a while, I'm also called an expert in the housing industry. I am not the only expert in the housing industry in this city, though. And there are several others of us over at Longleaf Pines Association of Realtors. And as experts in the housing industry, we do not get our information from blogs and newspapers and articles, from Facebook, from radio, television, or any other sources. In fact, the opposite is true. All of those sources get their information from us. We are the collectors and analyzers of all of that data and information. And tonight I am here to begin what will hopefully be a long-term, regular update to you on the statistics of housing right here in the Fayetteville area. So, just so we all have the same information, right now, in the month of August, we had closed sales totaling 1,437 houses. In comparison, that's almost 200 homes less than last year. There's been a slowing in closings of the real estate market. But what does that mean when you hear nationally that things are slowing down in the real estate industry? Let's take a little glance at that. The reality is we have 1 month of supply of housing in the city of Fayetteville. That translates to active listings right now. We have 398 active listings on the market. That is 1 month supply of inventory. A 6-month supply of inventory is considered a balanced market. At a 6-month supply of inventory, appreciation slows down. Cost of housing becomes more affordable. That's 398 available houses at this very moment. I pulled it up while I was sitting in my chair. It needs to be 2,400. That's the reality. Now, because we're short of inventory, our price values do continue to rise. And whereas that's a win on one side, there's never a win-win when it comes to things like that. Housing values have again increased $19 a square foot over the last year, and prices of homes continue to appreciate. That is your update for this month. We look forward to sharing more information in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Our next speaker is Mr. Lee Spruill. Mr. Lee Spruill. Okay. Our next speaker is Mr. Rick Ivansky.
Welcome, Mr. Iwansky, and if you'll give us your name and your residence, please.
Good evening. My name is Rick Iwansky. I am Jada Johnson's grandfather, who was recently killed by the police on 1 July. I live at 2308 Colgate Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Thank you, Mayor Colvin and members of the Fayetteville Council. Congratulations on your inauguration recently, and also to the new members. Once again, I'm here asking for accountability, transparency, and reform. Tragically, since my last visit, another citizen, Justin Levesey, has died by police gunfire while in a mental crisis just on the 2nd of September. Even before his death, this city had very contemptible statistics on death by police. And now we've gotten even worse as a community. Jada Johnson and Justin Levy were killed by police gunfire within about 2 months of each other. 2 months. Almost the same type of thing happened. We really have to look into this. Some questions that I have asked. What impact did the police culture have on this outcomes? What impact did the presence of leadership on the scene have? What caused the victims to fear response given by the police? What caused them to fear and bring out a weapon? In the case of Jada Johnson, why were the police's own guidelines ignored and caused an escalation? What is the status of the internal affairs investigations? What were the rules of engagement on the evening that Jada was shot and killed, and then what adjustments were made after that? When will we have a policy that ensures timely release of public information? We desperately need that as citizens. When will we fund and deploy crisis incident teams, as dictated by the police manual? Jada's family and friends were very pleased to hear the mayor and other council members recently stating the need for change in how mental health crises are handled by the city. Several other members have also indicated support, and I thank you for that. Recent initiatives of hiring more personnel, benchmarking other cities' models, as well as conducting staff studies are all commendable initiatives which should continue to their conclusion of a policy that addresses how this city engages mental health issues by law enforcement under all situations. Let not another life be lost due to inaction. Let's get moving on a real mental health initiative for Fayetteville. Thank you, and good evening. I give you 7 seconds back. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Iwansky. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Miss Rebecca Wright Ellis.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. And your name, please, and your address.
My name is Rebecca Wright Ellis. I live at 154 London Court, Apartment 5, here in Fayetteville. Good evening. My name, as I said, is Rebecca Wright Ellis, and I have a Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from East Carolina University. I work here in Fayetteville as a licensed clinical addiction specialist associate and a licensed clinical mental health counselor associate. I've also served on panels throughout North Carolina, advocating for change in treating people with suicidal ideations, and have been invited to speak at Barton College later this week around suicide prevention awareness as well. In addition to these professional credentials, I am a longtime consumer of mental health services and have several mental health diagnoses. I'm a 3-time suicide attempt survivor. I have made those 3 attempts in part due to being in mental health crises and previously being involuntarily committed. The experience of being involuntarily committed was terrifying, demeaning, and dehumanizing. I was handcuffed and placed in the back of a police car and lost myself, and then paraded through an ER. I felt I had been criminalized and punished for reaching out for help. The experience will forever haunt me. And due to the indignities of that experience, when I experienced suicide attempts at a later date, or suicidal ideations at a later date, and then attempts as well, 3 attempts again, I came close to dying and needed extensive medical hospitalization as a result of these attempts. If trained mental health professionals had been available in my time of need, not untrained police officers, I would have felt more comfortable reaching out for help in those crisis situations and may have not even made the attempts. Police officers often escalate these crisis situations instead of being calming and de-escalating those situations. On the other hand, counselors are trained to calm people in these crises through techniques and methods that they have learned through years of schooling and training. Outcomes for mental health crises where trained counselors respond and not police result in treatment and a return to a productive and healthy life for people who are in these situations. When police respond, these calls at best result in further distress, and at worst, they result in death. People with mental health concerns are people first, and they deserve to be treated as such. A mental health crisis deserves a mental health response. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rebecca Wright Ellis. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Mr. Mac Healy.
Mr. Healy, if you'll state your name and your address, please. Thank
Yes,
you.
my name is Mac Healy, and I reside at 2524 North Edgewater Drive here in Fayetteville. Thank you for your time. I was here last week for about 40 minutes, so I'll try and be brief. I had a call from a number of members of the council with some questions, and I want to try and clear a few of those up. One of the projects that we've been underway for quite a while is our stories, 100 stories from each county, each of the 100 counties, getting us 10,000 stories. The question was, were we going to be committed to diversity and inclusiveness in those stories? We are committed to diversity of race, religion, men and women, everything in those stories. So as we collect these stories, you have our word that we will commit to being inclusive and diverse in the stories that we have on our record. Another question was governing boards. The board that we have an advisory board right now. And unlike a lot of museums and history centers in the state of North Carolina, we set this up so there would be a local advisory board for input. This board will advise the state in programming and exhibits. It's different than a lot of places. A lot of places have boards, but those are fundraising boards. This is an advisory board that is set up. We welcome participation on that. Another point I want to make was we talked last time about community input. I want to reiterate again that Monday, October 10th at 7 p.m. at Highland Presbyterian Church. And then also Tuesday, the next morning at 10 a.m., we will hold a community forum. Now, what's different about this one is that our design team will bring down the storyboards that will be at the beginning of the content of the History Center. Those will be left for a week for citizens at their leisure to come walk through and make suggestions, corrections, give any input they want on those, and then the design team will take those back and get with the historians. The other question I was asked was who picks the historians? The two main historian leaders are Harry Watson and Spencer Crew. They're our lead historians on the group of historians that will decide the content on this. They pick and add people as interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. You'll be hearing from us.
Our next speaker is Miss Maya Warren.
Welcome, Ms. Warren. Your name and address, please.
Maya Warren, 969 Bassman Lane. I come to you tonight to tackle two issues. The first issue being Ms. Tisha Waddell and the key to the city. I ask you all, the work that you do, does it deserve to go unnoticed? Ms. Waddell served this community and did a fine job. She helped give people like myself who do not have a voice in the community. So how dare we disregard the work that she did and not give her a key to the city? When we gave someone who was appointed, not elected, but appointed a key to the city, but we dare not give her one. When I myself and other activists camped at the market house for 7 days straight, she and other council members were the only ones that reached out to us and cared to hear about us. She provided transparency, and she was exactly what a model city council member should be. Did she resign? Absolutely. But if you look at the timeline in which she resigned, her job was up anyway. She did her due diligence. So I'm asking you to reconsider to give Ms. Waddell a key to the city. My second point is our harassment of police. Myself and others were out demonstrating this past week, and because we used a bullhorn, we were told that we could not be out there. When people who were out there previously fighting for abortion rights had bullhorns and they were not disturbed. Just today, as I was coming into this meeting, there was an officer standing out there saying that we simply couldn't even play music. Let's not pick and choose when we want to stand up for what is right. Just because we say Black Lives Matter does not mean we deserve to be shut down. If we're going to be transparent, if we're going to be one for all, then our police department needs to be held accountable. I do understand that our chief of police is a sitting duck because she is waiting to retire. However, that does not mean that she cannot hold her police officers accountable for what is being done. If we are going to do what's right, then everybody needs to be held accountable. That means I don't care what they're standing out there protesting or standing up for. No one needs to use a bullhorn. No one needs to play music. Let's be fair, full force across the board. As it pertains to the mental health issue, if you look, people are dying at a rapid rate because our police is untrained. We are sending out people who are not trained to handle these type of issues. How about we put some boards and things together to get mental health professionals on the police force so that way they can go out and answer these calls. And then you tell me how many times killings will be reduced simply because we have the proper trained professionals on the police force. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warren.
Miss Kathy Greggs. Miss Kathy Greggs.
Hello, Ms. Greggs. If you'll state your name and your address, please.
Well, hello. How are you, Mayor Pro Tem and
Thank
City
you.
Council leaders?
Thank you.
My name is Kathy Greggs. My address is 4607 Woodline Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28314. So we heard from a lot of people tonight about mental health response. I am the president and the co-founder of Fayetteville Police Accountability Community Task Force. Back in August 2020, we presented an unarmed mental health response that was given to us by several different nonprofit organizations, such as Grassroots Law Project Org, which is a national organization. We presented that to the city council members here. It was sent to you by email, and I only received 2 responses. One was from Mayor Colvin, and the other response was from you, Johnny Dawkins. The response was, we will look into this for mental health response. That was back in 2020. I also attended a national organization back in Philadelphia on unarmed response training and how it looks across the nation. Right now, we have a problem with unarmed response here in Fayetteville. And I look at you all because, you know, we are human beings, but we're acting like we're very inhumane when we have mental health call response from our police department. I heard Mr. Harding talk about gun violence. Let's talk about police gun violence, because that is also gun violence, as we say. We need to make sure we understand that it's not the gun, it's the person behind the gun. As we say, untrained professionals behind the gun. So we need to make sure that we understand inhumane acts. And this is an inhumane act not to have response for mental health. It is inhumane. So you do not serve as a public servant until you address the issue. And addressing the issue is implementing policy to address accountability and to be transparent with the citizens, because we pay you, you don't pay us. So we can take our money and we can go somewhere else and get unarmed response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Griggs. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Sean McMillan.
Welcome, Mr. McMillan. If you'll state your name and your address, please.
Sean McMillan, 6024 Golden Range Drive. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Bottom line up front, the FPD has killed several people. Joshua Oxendine, Jada Johnson, Adrian Roberts, Justin Livesay, who might otherwise be alive today if there were mental health professionals on the scene. Each one of those lives matters and is worth preserving. The Fayetteville Police Department is statistically one of the most lethal hammers in the entire country. According to policescorecard.org, the FPD executes more deadly force per arrest than 81% of police forces in small cities nationwide. Our police kill more per capita than any other top 10 most populous cities in North Carolina. Our police should not be the only option in response to mental health emergencies. Our community has been screaming for Cumberland County and the city of Fayetteville to fix this for 4 years. To be clear, we're not calling for you to stop at the conclusion that additional training for local police officers is the best you can do to address this. To be crystal clear, we are calling for you to fund and implement mental health professionals to act as an alternative to the all too often lethal hammer that the FPD has proven itself to be. Please stop doing the least. A 2019 study in the Journal of American Academy of Psychiatry and Law concluded that while police CITs have modestly helped reduce arrests, they haven't shown any consistent reduction in the risk of mortality or death during emergency police interactions. I point to the success of several existing models of mental health intervention to include the CAHOOTS program in Eugene, Oregon, which was established in 1989, the Street Crisis Response Team, the SCRT in San Francisco, and most recently, the HEARTS program in Durham, North Carolina. A week and a half ago, 40-year-old Justin Livesay was killed by the FPD in another lethal mental health crisis response. We're left to wonder if the outcome could have been different if mental health professionals were on the scene. For years, this community has been saying that elected officials' failure to change policy is resulting in the unnecessary loss of life. Please allow my words and the words of Mr. Iwanski and everyone else tonight to serve as a request for a special council meeting on mental health response to mental health crises. What could be more important to our elected officials than implementing common sense policies that save lives? What could be more important? Enough is enough. Policy change now, all of us or none of us.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Pro Tem, we have now surpassed 30 minutes.
We'll close the public forum and move to the next item on the agenda. I want to thank all of those that participated and all those that signed up and we were not able to get to. Moving to public hearings. We're going to hold hearings where the City Council formally seeks your input. Individuals desiring to speak in this hearing must have signed up to speak with the City Clerk by name and address before this meeting began. We begin first with a staff presentation and then we'll move into the formal hearing. Mr. City Manager, who will be presenting? Is it PwC?
Yes, sir. Typically, it is. Oh, here we go.
Welcome.
Sorry, didn't see right there. Thank you.
If you'll state your name, please.
My name is Janelle Rocket. I work for the Fayetteville Public Works Commission. So thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for giving me the opportunity to come speak to you tonight. I'm here to ask for approval to proceed with construction for the Area 32 East Section 2 of the Phase 5 sewer annexation. I have a brief presentation before we'll open the public hearing. Area 32 East Section 2 is located in District 6, Councilmember Thompson's district. I'll give you a project overview. We'll talk about some events that have happened to date, some events that are coming up in the not too distant future. I'll talk to you about some of the costs to property owners, and then we'll talk about some of the financing options that property owners have when it comes to paying the assessments. For Area 32 East Section 2, on February 26, 2019, survey and appraisal letter notifications were mailed to property owners. On August 8, 2022, council adopted the preliminary assessment resolution. And on August 30th, 2022, copies of the resolution were mailed to all property owners. Upcoming events, once the resolution is adopted, we'll be able to advertise for construction bids. Once the construction is complete, we'll come back to council to request that the preliminary roll be approved. And once that is done and assessments are confirmed, we'll be sending those to the property owners. The cost to property owners, a typical single-family residential lot is capped by City Council at $5,000 for the sanitary sewer. A typical single-family residential lot has a 90-foot minimum front property line, which equals a rate of $55.56 per front foot for calculation of assessment charges. No payment is due by any property owner until construction is complete and the assessment roll is adopted. And for those who qualify for it, financial assistance is available. Once the assessments are set and payment is due, property owners have the option to pay in full with no interest within 30 days. Property owners can also finance. There is a option to finance for up to 10 years with an interest rate not to exceed 8%. City Council has established that the rate of the assessment is prime plus 2%, and that prime is established by City Council in the fiscal year that the assessments are done. And property owners who finance have the option of annual and/or monthly payments. Then there's no penalty for prepayment. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Councilmember Hare has a question. Councilmember Hare.
Thank you, and thank you for your report so far. Looking over at your cost of property owners, you stated down bullet 3, financial assistance, and let me see, what else does it say on that? Okay, it doesn't say all. So it says financial assistance available for those that qualify. I want to know what the criteria is. I mean, how high is the bar? Well, just explain that. What does qualifying mean?
So the assistance is actually available through the City Development Office. So I would forward your question to the City Development Office.
And no one is here from, okay, here comes Chris. Chris is going to come up and try. He's our guru.
He's always here.
Mr. Coley.
Yes, so this is a program that council funds every year through our community development block grant. And I'll pull up the incomes real quick because I just carry these around on me these days.
Well, you knew it was coming.
Yes, sir. So this program is reserved for low and moderate income households.
Yes, sir.
So that moderate income is going to be the higher one. So I'm just going to give you that one number across the board. So to give you an example, a single parent with 2 kids, so a 3-person household would be under $48,000 a year.
Under $48,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ramping up to like a 2-income household with a couple of kids, at a 5-person household, that's $57,000 a year. And that would be from if both folks had a job, it's total household income. You can learn any more about this program by going to FayettevilleNC.gov/ECD for the Economic Community Development Department. And we've got lots of resident resources there to include this program and lots of others.
Okay, Mr. Coley, this is a little concern, and I was aware of those numbers, but for the folk tonight that are listening, and even those who are in the room with us tonight, the 48,000, for example. What about families? And I think you stated that is moderate. Did you say that word?
Yes, sir. So
Okay,
moderate is 60 to 80% of area median income.
So what about those, because to me that's high. So what about those that are much lower that may need some assistance?
So if they're lower than that, they qualify.
Okay.
That is the upper ceiling. That's kind of the limit. So unfortunately, if you were to come in at $47,500 in annual income, we would not be able to help you with these grants.
So I'll make sure I'm
it's lower
understanding.
than
So
that.
that or lower
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're doing better as far as, maybe I wasn't answering the question correctly. All right, that's good. Thank you. Now, whenever, I guess, the notices are going to go out or things along that line, we are making our residents aware of these options, these objectives, right? Like, for example, what we were just talking about, the financial assistance.
Correct.
Is that a part of what goes out to them? I mean, how are they made aware that there's some financial assistance?
Information is included in the mailings. They can also go to Fayetteville PWC's webpage, and the information is available there under the annexation.
Okay, and now, are they on a particular time frame for paying back this assistance, or is this assistance like a grant or free?
Yes, so what we provide is a grant. It's not the full assessment. It's about $2,000 of the $5,000 assessment. But then we also can help property owners with the plumber's fee to actually hook up to the new sewer and water tap. And you can imagine that's a pretty big benefit to a property to hook up to municipal water and sewer. I think we have a community meeting tomorrow night, and so our staff will be there tomorrow night as well to talk about the program and make that available.
Okay, thank you. I hope to see you there.
Thank you,
Pro
Councilmember
Tem.
Hare. Councilmember Thompson, is this a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Thompson.
My question would be is how do we assess people's property when we're trying to purchase a temporary easement? And when are the residents notified? And when do they get a scope of work of what's going to be done to make a sound decision on what they feel as though is a fair offer?
I unfortunately can't. Missy, do you want to? I apologize. This is Misty Manning. She's our interim chief water officer.
So, good evening. I will try my best to answer your question. Citizens are notified. Typically, if there's an easement on their property, their first notification will be from our right-of-way department. So once they're notified from the right-of-way department, they will also include drawings and a map. I think majority of the time we try to meet with them, but I think first they get a letter with an offer from an assessment and appraisal that the right-of-way department has done of their property. So that starts the conversation. As far as them knowing what the assessment is, when we send out the letters for the preliminary assessment and notify the property owners, a lot of times that brings calls to our office. We work with the customer programs department to see what the assessment would be, and we notify them of what it is anticipated to be. However, until it is actually levied by city council, we don't know for sure what that assessment will be. So a lot of times during the easement negotiations, we do let them know what they can anticipate and speak with them on that, and they can use that as a bargaining tool.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right. Thank you. Stay nearby in case we need you. We'll open the public hearing. 15 minutes be allowed for those in favor, and those opposed to the item of the hearing. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each unless by a previous arrangement when a single spokesperson is designated, in which case the spokesperson may use the entire 15 minutes. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, clearly state your name and address for the record. You may then address the city council. When the light changes from green to amber, you have 30 seconds remaining. The timer will ring at the end of your allotted time. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Yes, sir. We just have one speaker, Miss Debbie Liebers. Miss Debbie Liebers. Not here. We have no further speakers, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll close the public hearing. All right, council, do we have any further questions? All right, I believe, Mr. City Manager, I believe we need action on this item, or no? I closed the public hearing, yep. Or is any action required, or it was required that we have a public hearing?
That was it, sir.
Very good.
Just one second, let's,
Anything else, Mr. City Manager, you have? Are we good?
that is all, sir, just receiving public comment.
All right, very good. Thank you. Moving to the next item of business, presentation of
One
appointments
second,
committee.
I'm sorry, Mayor, we're in a little bit of, what was that, Madam Clerk?
I believe PWC requested for an approval motion is what I have written down.
Sir, the actual CAM is staff recommends council hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment regarding the preliminary assessment resolution. And at a later date, you'll be, I think, asked to actually approve the assessment. So it's no action tonight.
All right, very good. Councilmember Ingram, did you have something you wanted to add?
Are we now on?
We are now on item 10.01, the presentation of the appointments committee, and I was going to let the chairman do that, and then I will call on you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And you, all right. Councilmember Hare, please, as chairman of the appointments committee, your recommendations, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I sent the city attorney a text. I was trying to see if I could just ask for approval of the slate of names and just pull the PWC item, but she referred to what you used to do, so I guess I'll be calling each name and ask our clerk to assist me if I make a mistake with a name. On last week, we had an appointments committee meeting for various committees through the city of Fayetteville, and the following names, each committee and the nominees are as follows. Animal Control, Jennifer, and what I would be asking is I will call the full slate. I'm going to pull the PWC committee for a separate vote, but I want to call all the names, all the committees, vote one time for them, and then we will go to the PWC committee. Is that okay, sir? Okay.
Yes, you'll make a recommendation for the motion, and then I'll need to ask for a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Animal Control, Jennifer Castillo. Boards of Appeals, Mark Crow, Ashley Dunkel, and Adrian Frank. Community Police Advisory Board, Ari McNeil. Economic Development Board, Catherine Cox. Fact Advisory Committee on Transit, Timothy Ingram and Scott Sadid. Fair Housing Board, Mike Morrell. Historic Resources Commission, Jennifer Lockhart. Human Relations Commission, Kathleen Ford. Tobash, I was doing so good, wasn't I? I was on a roll. Okay, Toshiba Narcissus, okay. Peter Pappas, James Peterson, and Lindora, okay. Lindora Thompson, thank you, ma'am. For the Joint City and County Appearance Commission, Brenda Gordon and Sherry Lahr. Linear Park Incorporated, Tonetta Johnson. Millennial Advisory Commission, Christone Bonds, Janelle Brown, Camille Little, Kia McMillan. Okay, Dalton Nelson, Corey Sorvey, and Sarah Suggs. Parks and Recreation Board, Brooke Johnson, Emily Schaefer, Planning Commission, Christina Agaris, Antonio Jones, Eldridge Lofton, Adrian Williams. Redevelopment Commission, Warren Clary and Rashawn Shell. Zoning Commission, Kevin Height, Alexander Keith, and Claiborne Lowe. At this time, Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion that these names that I just called out in committee, for each committee, I make a motion that we accept these nominees.
Thank you, Councilmember Hare. Is there a second to Councilmember Hare's motion? Second. Councilmember Thompson, any discussion on the motion to appoint these members? Discussion, Councilmember Benavente.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think the spirit of the boards and commissions is to make sure that we have as much community involvement as possible from folks that are not typically not typically of the usual suspects that get involved with community leadership. I think it's important that we reconsider moving forward our policy on appointing former elected officials to boards and commissions so as to maximize the number of community members to be able to gain experience and to gain leadership opportunities. I think every time that we keep going back to the same well, we limit those opportunities, which is not in the spirit of, I think, these boards and commissions. Secondly, we all heard from Mr. Sean McMillan this evening during the public forum section. He had applied to the Community Police Advisory Board, and I think it was a mistake to leave him from being appointed to that board. I've been to just about every meeting of the Community Police Advisory Board, and it's sorely lacking a variety of voices. All of those members are either former police officers or former police employees, and it shows. Their lack of inquiry into a lot of the police policy, I think, once again, is not in the spirit of that advisory board when it was initially created. So it was a missed opportunity, I think, to leave Mr. McMillan off of that. So I just want to make all of that sort of known for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Benavente. Any further discussion? Ask for your vote. Those in favor of accepting these names for appointment to these commissions, raise your right hand. Mr. Mayor, are you still on the line?
Yes, Dwayne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's unanimous. Clerk McGill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As we go back to one item, the Public Works Commission, it was asked if that could be an individual up or down vote, and when we were in our meeting upstairs, Councilwoman Banks McGoffin said that she wanted to, she changed? Okay.
No, we have some discussion on that particular motion. Are you prepared to make a motion, or would you like
yes, sir,
me
I'm
to
sorry.
go
Yes, sir.
to,
I make a motion for the Public Works Commission. I nominate Christopher Davis.
or is there a second?
Point of order, point
All
of
right.
order.
Okay. Councilmember Ingram, I'm gonna come to you. We'll discuss this motion, and then we'll see where it goes. Yep. Councilmember Ingram.
Thank you. Actually, we, let me start with a historical reference. I sent an email, a letter to the appointment committee, as I am a member of, and the mayor and council, and I expressed my concern and request to move this appointment forward. And I also laid out the understanding that the appointment committee had no ground to move a recommendation to council, and that all applicants were to go to council as it relates to this process, which had been discussed for the last two appointments. within our last appointment, we began a new process that was spearheaded by our mayor. But I did send a letter to request that we delay the appointment of the PWC liaison so that, as we all are aware, we are in search of a new CEO, and the Board of Commissioners, that is their responsibility to find a new, begin the search process for the new CEO. I will not read the letter that I sent, but I can publish it where it need be. It is in the agenda on the website. But I do think that we should be good stewards of our utility and allow the current Board of Commissioners to do the work of the city to locate and hire a new PWC CEO. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. Councilmember Benavente.
Just another opportunity to reiterate the concerns that I have with regards to former members of City Council being reappointed to positions of huge decision-making power. I think that's a concern that other citizens ought to take note of, that these spots that are meant for members of our community to be able to get engaged, to be able to gain experience so the same people don't simply grow theirs. This is an example of that. I would ask that the viewing public also consider the concerns with the sale of PWC and whether or not this appointment is going to have an impact on that potential, because certainly my predecessor, the elected person to City Council District 3, resigned as it related to this particular topic, and out of an abundance of concern with regards to the sale of PWC. And the name that is before us right now, Mr. Chris Davis, was one of the folks that was essentially a part of her concern that the sale was somehow being orchestrated outside of the public view of the citizens of Fayetteville. And so now, here we are getting ready to appoint that individual, and some question marks and some red flags should go up for a lot of people in this community. Putting the same people back into positions of power ought to be a huge concern.
Thank you, Councilmember Benavente. All right, Mr. Mayor, you have some comments. Mr. Mayor.
I do. I was waiting to see what the status of, if there was a motion on the floor or not to make my statement. Is this the discussion phase of a motion?
We are still in the discussion phase, Mr. Mayor.
There is a motion on the floor?
There's a motion on the floor to nominate Chris Davis to the Public Works Commission by Councilman Hare, seconded by Councilman Thompson.
Right, and I thank you for the opportunity, and thank my colleagues for the perspectives. I think we have to look at a few things here. Certainly it is the goal to get as many qualified people in the right places on these boards as possible. And I don't think that one is mutually exclusive of another, because people who like to serve like to serve. In fact, the current commissioner that Councilmember Ingram was referring to have an exception on extension of his term was also a former council member. And oftentimes council members, particularly if they were the liaison, have a unique perspective as to how the utility works and how it works well with the city politics. So I know that, and the engineering background of the nominee that the appointments committee voted for puts former Councilmember Davis in a unique position to not only understand the intrinsic relationships of the city and PwC, but also to understand fully what the workings are, and the people out west would have great representation with the infrastructure that is in hand. And secondly, I'll say this and I'll stop. As it relates to those wanting to extend or amend the charter, as it was done before, I think there were a couple of unique factors before. One, the current commissioner did not want to be reappointed, which was former Commissioner Ralph Huff. In fact, he asked to come off, but he wanted to come off at a certain date after a CEO search that had already began was complete. And so I think that is very different, because Mr. Huff actually asked to exit the board, In this case, that has not happened. And so according to the charter, I'm asking that, which says we have to make an appointment by September. I would hope that the council will move forward with the most qualified person and not allow the politics to interfere with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Thompson, your first round.
I'd like to address two issues first, and that was in reference to putting the same old people on board. Me being a board commissioner, board appointee for the first year, I made it my business to seek out individuals who weren't always doing the same thing all the time, and tried to get laypersons to come in where we could use new blood at a lot of these boards and commissions. That's why you probably see so many more now than you have seen in the past. Speaking about the past, when I nominated Chris Davis, he is the best qualified, by far, than any other candidate that we have. When you want to talk about delaying someone's appointment because of the direction that the new CEO appointment might go, let me just say that prior appointments, by appointments that you have made, I would feel as though you would have enough confidence in to make a sound decision in appointing a new CEO. So that doesn't say much about the current members that we have on the appointment committee in order to make a conscious, good, ethical decision on who the next PwC CEO would be. So I would defer to say that Mr. Chris Davis would be an enhancement to the PwC board and not anything else. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Thompson. Councilmember Ingram, are you coming for your second round?
Yes, I'll just briefly say, just for transparency, I did talk to former Councilman Davis, and I did express to him what I would be requesting, and he did understand and accept the request that I was making, and he understood very well the perspective that I was coming from, and he was okay with what I was requesting. So I do want to make that public that I did have a conversation with him, and he was okay with my request.
All right, and is that a motion to delay, Councilmember Ingram?
Well, unfortunately, there's an official motion and second on the floor, so if this fails, then I will come back and make my motion.
Correct, sir, because there's a motion on the floor now.
All right, very good. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Those in favor of Chris Davis to be appointed to the Public Works Commission, raise your right hand. All right, 1, 2. Mr. Mayor, your vote, sir? Mr. Mayor, your vote?
Green.
Green, okay. And Dawkins, that's 4. Ms. McGill, motion fails.
Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, Councilmember Ingram.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins. I would like to ask that we delay the
Is this a motion, Councilmember Ingram?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Ingram to delay.
To delay the PwC appointment.
We have some time constraints. Are you requesting maybe 30 days or a month, 2 months, or?
Madam Attorney, City Manager, what would be from my understanding, with the last appointment, we didn't really have time constraints, but.
All right, so we're not under a time constraint now because of the end of September, city attorney or city manager that we're aware of, so we could bring this up at a later date.
Or should I refer to my letter where I asked that it would be at the hiring of the new CEO?
You could add that to your motion.
Madam Attorney, do you have any?
No, ma'am, it's your motion.
Okay, so I'd like to delay the appointment.
That's all you got to say.
Well, we Well, yeah, I like to delay the motion.
All right, motion by Councilmember Ingram to delay the motion. Is there a second to that motion? Is that a second, Councilmember Hondros? Second by Councilmember Hondros. Now we're in the discussion phase. All right, go first to Banks McLaughlin, and then I'll come to...
Mr. Mayor, if I could say, if this is discussion time, is this the appropriate time?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So,
go right
just
ahead.
For clarification, what is the motion and the time specifics and how it fits into the charter, number one? And what is the structure of once, if I understood her correctly, it says to amend it until the new search is complete. And so what is the process that would take place once that happens, and how does that align with the charter, which says you have to have the new appointments made? And the current commissioner who is up for reappointment is at his term max, according to the charter, that he can't serve any longer, which was different from the last request. That former commissioner was only had served one term. This gentleman is maxed out according to the new charter, so how is this supposed to work legally?
All very good questions, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking over at the city manager and the city attorney, and not sure who wants to take this on.
No one. Council, this is, you have a charter as the mayor referenced, but clearly council has to appoint someone. And if council's not ready to appoint someone tonight, then typically your rules are that the person serves until replaced. And so, but again, this is probably a better conversation for, again, the council, but those are, as I understand it, the rules that govern here. Is that correct, Madam Attorney?
And if I may, I did speak with the current commissioner that is in that seat, and he is prepared to serve.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. Next on the list is Councilmember Banks McLaughlin for discussion.
Thank you. I do have, my question was actually for after her motion, but I do have a question now. As it relates to spreading it out as far as the time frame, that's what our positions, same thing as the boards. When we came on council, that was one of our first jobs, is to take a vote. So in those positions, whether they get hired and don't have the experience, that's still their job, whoever is put in those positions, to make that hard decision and do their research and make that vote. So for that, I do not support that, but I do have a question after she finished with her motion.
All right. Well, that was round one for Banks McLaughlin. I'll come back to you. Round one on this motion, Councilmember Benavente.
Just to say that I wouldn't be concerned with the charter and the extending of terms, because we have the North Carolina Constitution that says that no one on city council could stay past their 2-year terms. But then things happened. Redistricting happened. People's terms were extended until the next person got installed. So we didn't have to get a constitutional amendment in order for the seasoned members of council to stay on council when they decide to delay the elections and people's terms were elongated. So I wouldn't be concerned with any amending of any charters. We just haven't appointed someone new just yet. And when that happens, maybe after a CEO is put into place, that at that point the term will end. But I wouldn't be too concerned about going beyond just Councilmember Ingram's motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Benavente. First round, Councilmember Thompson.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm kind of flabbergasted here, because at our last meeting, we just got finished talking about policies and procedures that we need to update because they are out of date. But at the same time, we're going to try to circumvent the policies and procedures to add somebody to extend something that's past their term. So which way are we going to have it? We're either going to do policies and procedures, or we're going to create our own. We can't play it both ways. This is not an emergency. CEOs leave all the time. If you have enough confidence in your vote, then let your vote stand for the person that you choose and let him pick, or she, pick the next CEO. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Thompson. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Hurry home, Mr. Mayor.
All right, y'all.
So, So anybody that has followed the lineage of PWC appointments knows that, I sit in this seat and have been in here for 9 years, and it never goes smoothly. PWC appointment never goes smoothly. It never will, no matter what we do. But what I will say to you, and I have to say my points on it, is number one, we did have this happen again. Yes, it might have been different times. The charter might have done things like that. Yes, I get that. The second thing is, the last time that we were here, I sat here, and I'm going to go back to Bobby Hurst sitting in this same position, and Councilmember DJ, it's going to be you, and it might not be this time, but it'll be next time during PWC appointments, that we came in and everybody had to interview with the whole council. Now it's changed. So y'all about, took me out and hung me because I didn't do that, and we changed that, and then this time we come around and we're not changing it. So I don't understand. Now, everybody can say whatever they want to about me, but I am fair, and I have a mind of an elephant. I don't forget. And I don't forget that we sat here and we said that we were going to interview. Now, if it comes down to it tonight and we have to have somebody be on council, take this position, we have voted. And now we have to look for someone else because the vote has been taken. So the next step that we have is we either say, we want to hold off. We want to either make sure that, that this is how it's going to be for the new CEO, which we did last time. Again, my mind that does not forget. The other option is we're going to have to pick somebody. And then the other option is we can say we can go back and interview like we've had to do. So I've said my piece, and that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. You are so correct. I see you, Councilmember Banks, Councilmember Hondros. Nope. Okay, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
First, can we call for a vote, and then I have a motion after Councilwoman Ingram vote?
Well, we haven't finished the discussion phase, but generally when you call the question, we have to then take a vote to whether to halt discussion. So those in favor of halting discussion, I will come to you in just a moment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Those in favor of halting discussion, raise your hand.
And moving to previous question.
1, 2, 3, I'm assuming that's a yes, Banks McLaughlin, or I don't see your hand up. Okay. All right, motion fails. All right, continue with discussion. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, then I'll be coming to you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, again, it's on discussion, it's a motion. Since that failed, I would like to nominate a former council member to
We
that
didn't
office.
vote.
All right.
Point of order. We didn't
Right now,
vote.
we're in the discussion phase. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
No. We
And
vote-
it's not the nomination phase.
we voted to.
Mr.
Well,
Mayor.
I'll just call for a vote.
Point of order. You called for us to end discussion, but we were supposed to vote on the motion that was on the floor. So.
Point of order.
Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. So a couple of things. One is continue the discussion. One is the city council does not have the ability to amend or change the legislative charter. So I know that, a new council member, Benavente, had said that we shouldn't pay attention to it, and that compared it somehow to the ability of people to serve term limits. But the city exists because the charter is given by the legislature. So when elections are extended, the legislature did it, and we fell in line. So I think that is not really a good comparison to it. Secondly, as Councilmember Jensen said, she does have a memory of an elephant, like she said, to her words. When she was Mayor Pro Tem, she was nominating Ronna Garrett, who she said was one of the most qualified people that's ever applied for PWC. She's been there a little over a year and a half, or almost a year and a half. She had experience in HR, over 900,000 employees, reported to her leadership, and she is the head of the search committee who is looking for the new CEO. So I would say, based on former Mayor Pro Tem Councilmember Jensen's words, that she's very qualified to do this. Quorums can be held. PwC's business can go on with 3 people. So if a new seasoned person who is the former liaison, who could come in and get up to speed, can come in, I don't think that that has anything to do with the process of hiring a new operational person. And furthermore, I'm not sure if we can legally amend the charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the motion on the floor is to delay the appointment. That is the motion on the floor.
Yes. And I'll add that within the last when we revisited this, where the commissioner asked, we didn't touch the charter. He asked the mayor directly, and the mayor decided that that's what was going to happen.
All right.
So I would like to go ahead and vote. Thank you.
We're getting there. So I want to make sure everybody understands. The vote you're about to take is to delay. However, in our next meeting, you could actually bring up, now, as to whether someone else can be nominated, we've got to look, there is a nomination process for all of our commissions, and I think those names have been submitted. But however, I have seen the city council in the past nominate someone from the floor when there is a vote on the actual appointment. But I would prefer right now we just vote on the actual delay. So those in favor of delaying the appointment tonight, please raise your right hand. That's Councilmember Hondros, Councilmember Benavente, Councilmember McNair, Councilmember Jensen, Councilmember Dawkins, Councilmember Ingram. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 in favor. Those against, is that in favor or against? That's against. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, Councilmember Hare, Councilmember Thompson. Mr. Mayor.
I'm against, and this is to delay, right?
This is to delay, right? All right. Motion carries 6-4. All right. Moving forward. Yes, ma'am. You have.
And that's what I had my motion to vote up and down for former Councilmember Ted Moan.
No, ma'am, that motion is out of order because we have a specific process that we have to go through.
City attorney? Because I mentioned upstairs as far as nominating someone on the floor, is that?
Well, actually, you just voted to delay the appointment of a PwC commissioner. So that would be the reason that your motion is out of order, not because.
All right. Thank you, Madam Attorney. Mr. Mayor, did you have a question, sir?
Yes, I understand the council voted to table or delay it. What is the date in which it will be returned?
Right.
What's the next steps?
That's right. There was no specific date, Mr. Mayor. All right.
Excuse me.
Councilmember Banks McLaughlin?
And this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
for you, City Attorney. As far as with the nomination, that's just adding former Councilmember Ted Moan to the list for voting as a nominee. So that's what I would like to vote for, to add him to the.
I believe he is on the list, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
But you all recommended.
It doesn't matter what the committee recommended. All of the names that are in nomination will be considered, but all we've done tonight is delay it. All right? All right, administrative reports, Mr. City Manager, those will go to each of the council members concerning the Fayetteville Bond Information Education Campaign. Anything else for the good of the body?
Move that we adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Benavente for adjournment does not require a second. Thank you. We stand adjourned.